All right. So as promised, let's bring on the Director of Athletics at Syracuse University, John Wildhack, joining us now. And John, thanks for doing this. I know it's a very busy day, so I appreciate you finding a few minutes for us. Paulie and I were talking about, our first impressions of hearing from Fran Brown today. And we both said we get it, right? We get why you hired this guy. What stood out to you with your initial conversations with Fran Brown that ultimately led him to land in this job?
Steve, I think it was just, we talked in the first conversation. I think we were going to talk for like 10 minutes. It went like 50 minutes. And just, we got to know each other as people. And I had people, had reached out to me and, hey, you should really take a look at Fran Brown, and, a number of people who recommended Fran. And it just, again, it's just the total package of who he is as a person, as a coach, how authentic and how genuine he is, how real he is. And I just think in this day and age where we are with college sports, right? Transfer portal, NIL, more movement than ever. The post-COVID, I just think he's the right person and has the right qualities to be a really effective head coach in this era.
Take us behind the curtain if you can, John, or at least as much as you can, about the last few weeks, right? Because you talked about how it was an exhaustive search. You mentioned, you're working on Thanksgiving. You're traveling around the country. Take us through what the last couple of weeks have been like, going through the interview process, the amount of people you've talked to, and how this whole thing played out start to finish.
Well, I literally, over the 2 weeks since we announced that we're making a change, Steve, I literally talked to several hundred people. And
wow.
It was amazing. My phone was blowing up constantly. I reached out to people who I really respect to get opinions on not only Coach Fran, but other candidates as well. It was pretty much, it wasn't 24 hours a day, but it was 18 hours a day. I did a Zoom with a candidate at 6 a.m. on Thanksgiving morning, and I ended Thanksgiving. Coach Fran and I did a Zoom at 9 o'clock. We're going to talk for half an hour, and I think we got done about 10:30 Thanksgiving night. So it was a lot. I'm really thankful to the search committee because they were great. Herm was great. Tori and Joe Burton as former players, really, really helpful. Steve Ballantyne, who's the chair of the athletics committee for our board, really appreciated Steve's insight, his questions, what he wanted to learn about each candidate. Candace Campbell-Jackson, the chancellor's chief of staff. So they were awesome, and they worked. They worked really, really hard, and I'm thankful. And one of the things I said to you, I think, Steve, you might have asked it 2 weeks ago at the press conference, is, hey, timing, right? And I think my response was, hey, I'm aware of the calendar, right? And right. To get this done, get this announced last week, to have Fran here, yesterday on the ground, hitting the ground running when the portal opens today, was critically important. And that's one reason I made the decision and made the move when we did, is I wanted to get our new coach in place before the portal opened today.
You brought up that initial press conference. You had set out some parameters, and now we kind of understand how you got off them. But what led you to break away from those parameters?
Good question, Paul. I think a couple things is really what just his knowledge of the game, his vision for the program. But talking to Kirby Smart and talking to Matt Rule was really, really impactful. Because those are two guys, obviously what Kirby's done at Georgia is amazing. So Fran's been a part of that. And I like what Fran said at this press conference today is, from day one, Kirby's like, no, you're sitting next to me. You came here, for me to help you become a head coach, then you're going to sit here. And he was heavily involved. And Kirby told me this, that Fran was heavily involved in their defensive game planning and recruited much more than DBs. And with Matt Rule, it was, they made Temple, they turned Temple into a top 20 program when they were there. And, here, prior to that, Temple was really, really struggling. So they rebuilt the program. They went down to Baylor. They flipped that in a hurry. Those two guys along, at NFL head coaches call me and other assistant coaches, the recommendations from the people in the industry were really, really impactful.
Part of what we heard at the press conference today was, his the beginnings of his staff coming together, right? And the name Elijah Robinson came up, a gentleman who is the interim head coach at Texas A&M. Sounds like Texas A&M really wanted to keep him, and yet Syracuse was able to lure him away. Fran Brown was able to lure him away. John Wildhack was able to lure him away. What does that say, I guess, about the hiring of Fran Brown and the future of Syracuse football, that you're able to, to land somebody like Elijah Robinson to come in here as the defensive coordinator?
Well, Elijah Robinson's incredibly well respected, and Elijah's coming here because of Coach Brown. So, Coach Fran, not only can he recruit players, he can recruit coaches pretty well. But it's all on their personal relationship, and they've been friends for such a long time. And to have somebody of Coach Johnson's stature and caliber, the success that he's had, I think it speaks volumes about where we want to take this program. I think it speaks volumes about the commitment we have to this program. I can't wait to meet him. And again, he's going to hit the ground running.
Program to go. Coach Brown had some very lofty goals for this program. He said he wants to be here till his kid turns 12. How does Syracuse have the means to keep a guy that can get the program to that level?
Yeah, I think we do, Paulie. And one of the things when I introduced Coach Brown, Coach Fran to the players yesterday, and I told them this 2 weeks ago too. I said, I want you guys to enjoy the experience of playing in really, 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 really big games. I want you to enjoy the experience of playing in really, really significant bowl games. I want you to enjoy the significance of playing and being in a game where we win this game, we can get in a 12-team playoff that begins next year. And I think it's very similar in terms of what Coach Fran has in terms of vision for the program. And as he said, we're not that far away. Now, is there work to be done? Absolutely. And that work began last week when we announced him. And as he referenced in the press conference, he did double duty all last week. And again, I can't thank Kirby Smart enough. He was incredibly gracious through this process. Now that Coach Fran's devoted here 24 hours a day, he's getting his staff in place. I mean, we're going to hit the ground running, and we're going to be really aggressive. And I think we've got one hell of a vision to sell.
That's one of the things that stood out to me, John, over the course of the last few days, not just the excitement from the fans. We obviously, heard from Fran Brown today. The former players, I think, are really behind this as well. I was talking with Robert Drummond right after the news conference wrapped up, and he said he was he's shaking with excitement that that this is what he feels like the future of Syracuse football should be. What he and his fellow teammates laid the groundwork for. He feels like this university is now getting back to that. When you hear that, John, when you hear the former players are behind this, and I guess kind of a two-part question, what's your reaction to that? And number two is, how important are the former players and that, that buy-in, that support from the former players? How important is that to you and the university?
I think the support of our football alums is critical, absolutely critical. And you see this at other programs that have success year after year after year. Their alumni, they're engaged, right? They're on campus, they're at practice, they're at games, they're contributing to whether it's the head coach's fund, they're contributing to NIL, et cetera, that type of thing. If they have contacts, around the country, high school coaches, whatever, we need them to be invested in this program. And I use the word invested in all aspects of the word, just not monetarily. Absolutely critical. And I think for us to get back, is one of the things I really wanted is we've got to recruit much more effectively in the Northeast, the DMV area, Canada, as Coach Brown said, and he has the vision to do that. Pennsylvania, and then you can spot recruit, as he said today. But the bulk of our roster has got to come from the Northeast, DMV, and Pennsylvania and Canada.
I do want to touch on the bowl game if we could. The
Sure.
question was brought up at the news conference today, and the answer wasn't super clear from Fran. He was asked about his role in terms of getting ready for the bowl game. He said that he was going to observe the practices, wasn't going to be running the practices, which makes sense. And then the question was asked, who will be coaching the bowl game? And again, he didn't really answer that. it sounds like to me, based on my conversations after, and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds like Nunzio Campanelli will be the interim head coach for the bowl game as well. Is that your understanding of how this will go?
That's the plan, Steve. To be honest, I've really not spoken to Coach Fran too much about the bowl game. And all right, do you want to coach? Does Nuns want to coach? It's all about what do we got to get done in the next 24 hours? What do we got to get done in the next 48 hours?
Sure.
Will it be his staff, do you know, that's coaching it, or will it be the old staff that's coaching it?
Don't know, Paulie. That depends on that depends on personnel moves. We may have some staff that have opportunities elsewhere. I recognize that. I told them that 2 weeks ago, and I met with staff as well. So it'll be a little bit fluid for a while, but again, we're prepared for that, and that's why we moved when we did.
He mentioned that Coach Campanelli will be part of his staff. Will there be any other holdovers from this staff?
That's up to Coach Fran.
Your thoughts, I guess, on the bowl matchup, John? We haven't really, we've been talking about the new coach for good reason, but you found out yesterday that you're going to Boca Raton, Florida, which is a nice reward for these guys, right? To get a warm weather game before Christmas, so they can get the bowl game over with, and then still be home in time for Christmas. Just your thoughts on the matchup and the bowl game in general.
Well, we're happy. We're happy to play. The team's happy. You're right, Boca, pretty good location in December. Talked to the bowl director last night for a couple of minutes. We've got some people going down tomorrow. It's a quick turnaround for us because it's December 21st. But is the most important thing are the 15 practices and how Coach Fran and the staff can maximize the use of those 15 practices, not only for the bowl game, but again, to begin to instill the culture, right? And the culture of how we're going to practice going forward for next year.
Hey, John, while we're talking bowl games, I wanted to get your take on what happened to the college football playoff yesterday and the fact that Florida State, undefeated in the ACC, wins the championship game, does not make the playoff.
Stunned. Absolutely stunned. And again, it's not that, listen, they're a terrific football team, had a great year. I'm not disrespecting any other team or school. But when you go 13-0 in a Power 5 conference, you beat 2 SEC teams, one in a neutral site, one on the road. You win your conference championship. This is the criteria that's laid out for the committee, and I think in some respects it's prognostication in terms of what Florida State's offense could be without Jordan Travis a month from now. Well, I'm not sure that's the job of any committee to try to roll a prognosticator, right? You can win with championship defense, and Florida State played great defense Saturday against the Louisville team. You can win with great defense and great special teams. So I really was stunned and shocked by that.
I got one more question for you, John, about scheduling. It came up in our chat earlier. The UConn game next year is shown on the schedule as to be determined as a location. Is that a home game? Is it a neutral site? Is it at UConn? Do you know?
It's their home game.
Okay. That answers that question.
John, you've been gracious with your time. I very much appreciate it. I just want to kind of give you an opportunity, if you have any sort of final thought, any message to the fans, anything we didn't touch on about today. It's obviously a big day for the future of the program. Anything else you want to mention about Fran Brown before we let you go today?
Yeah, I look forward to people getting to meet Coach Brown. We went to dinner last night, and he was late because he's in an academic meeting. He walked in and he shook the hand of every single person who was in the restaurant that we were at, and that's just the type of person he's in, and he is, and he will engage with the community. We need the community to really lean in and engage and support Coach Fran, support our team. We've got what can be the best home field advantage in the country, and we need everybody. We need everybody on board. That's my request. Support the program.
And he's got really good taste in Italian food, because I saw a picture of where you guys were at last night, and that happens to be my favorite restaurant. So he's got. It was
pretty darn good.
Yes, I bet it was. John, thanks so much. A big day. Congratulations on the hire. I know you've got a bowl meeting coming up in a little bit, right? We've got a Zoom coming up with you this afternoon. So we'll talk more about the bowl this afternoon. But thanks so much for coming on. We appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Go Orange.
All right, John Wildhack joining us here. We're going to take a quick time out, and then phone lines open the rest of the way. 315-437-7644.
I want to hear what the fans think. Are they buying what Coach Brown is selling? I think I am.
Yeah.
He won me over.
It was a very impressive news conference.
Yeah, and
today.
I'd like to see if the fans are in on it. Is there hesitancy? Because I hate to say it, but Babers really won the press conference.
That's
when
true.
He was here.
I was actually texting with my wife because she was at the press conference, and she said the same thing. She said, "Oh, he's really impressive." I said, "Well, let's keep in mind Dino was very impressive on day one as well."
Yeah.
But it was he hit a lot of the right notes today.
Yeah, he hit a home run.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes. We'll see if the fans are buying. 315-437-7644. We'll talk that. We'll play more. If you miss the press conference, we'll play some of the highlights of it. We'll talk about what happened in basketball over the weekend also.
Yeah. Do we have to get to that? Yes, we do. We're back after this on ESPN Radio.